She went to pick up her cousin's best friend and picked up a billionaire CEO instead. Before we dive in, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on our new stories. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more exciting, dramatic tales. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you so much. Now, let's get started with today's story. She thought she was just picking up her cousin's best friend from the airport. But as Emma stepped out of the cab, she had no idea that her life was about to take an unexpected turn. It was supposed to be a simple favor for her cousin Jenny, who had asked Emma to meet her best friend, Kevin, at the terminal. Emma wasn't thrilled about it. She had a busy day ahead, but family is family. As she walked through the bustling airport, the cool air biting at her cheeks, Emma couldn't help but feel a bit out of place. She wasn't exactly dressed for a fashion show. Her dress was secondhand, her shoes a little scuffed from running around town, and her nerves were already shot. She had promised Jenny she'd go through with it, but part of her just wanted to go home and crash. The sea of people around her didn't help her nerves. She scanned the terminal for Kevin, her heart pounding. She wasn't sure what he looked like, but she'd recognize him when she saw him, right? Her eyes landed on a man sitting by the window, dressed sharply in a well-tailored suit, looking absorbed in his phone. That must be him, she thought. Taking a deep breath, she walked over to the table, her heart skipping a beat. "Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Emma," she said, forcing a bright smile as she slid into the chair across from him. The man looked up, his dark eyes wide with surprise. He blinked, clearly caught off guard. Hi, I'm not Kevin," he said, his voice laced with confusion. Emma's face turned crimson. Oh no, she had made a mistake. She looked at him for a moment, her mouth going dry. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, standing up quickly. "I must have mixed up the tables. This is so embarrassing." She started to grab her bag, ready to bolt, but the man stood up too. "Wait," he said, his tone surprisingly calm, even a little amused. "It's fine. Don't worry about it." "I'm so sorry," she repeated, her hands shaking slightly. "I really thought you were someone else." "I'm just going to go find." "It's okay," he interrupted, flashing a small smile. "It's just a mix-up. Happens all the time." Emma paused, looking up at him. There was something oddly comforting about his demeanor. I can buy you a coffee to make up for it, if you'd like. I mean, it's the least I can do." The man chuckled softly. "You don't have to, but sure, I'll take a coffee." She nodded, still embarrassed, and hurried to the counter to order. Her heart was still racing, but there was something oddly magnetic about this man. Even if he wasn't Kevin, he was easy to talk to, and that made her feel a little better about the whole situation. When she returned, she slid into the seat again, the man now a little more relaxed. "I'm Liam, by the way," he said as she handed him the coffee. "Emma," she replied, her voice quieter now, a little shy. They both took a sip of their drinks, the conversation flowing more easily than she expected. They joked about the awkwardness of the situation, and somehow, they ended up talking about their lives. Liam told her he worked in tech, something she knew little about. But his quiet charm had her interested anyway. She found herself talking about her dreams, her love for art, her hopes of opening a small gallery one day. "What about you? What's your dream?" she asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. Liam looked at her, his eyes softening for a moment before he took another sip of coffee. "I guess you could say I'm already living my dream," he said, leaning back in his chair. "But you never know, right? Maybe there's something else out there for me." His words were thoughtful, and Emma found herself strangely drawn to him. She was about to ask more when her phone buzzed in her bag. It was a message from Jenny. "Hey, where are you? I'm at table 7. Kevin is waiting." Emma's stomach dropped. She looked up at Liam, her face turning bright red again. "Oh no," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're not Kevin, are you?" Liam's smile faltered for a moment, but he shook his head. "No, I'm not Kevin." Her heart sank, and she stood up, fumbling with her bag. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "I've really got to go." But as she turned to leave, Liam's voice stopped her. "Emma, it's okay. Really, don't worry about it." He gave her a warm smile, but all she could think about was how awkward she must look. She hurried out of the cafe, her face flaming. Emma ran out of the cafe, feeling like she was disappearing into the crowd. She didn't know if she'd ever see him again, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Liam was someone she wouldn't forget anytime soon. And as much as she tried to push it aside, she couldn't help but wonder, what if that mix-up was fate? And what would happen if she saw him again? Emma's heart was still pounding in her chest as she hurried out of the cafe. Her face burned with embarrassment, and the weight of her mistake lingered like an awkward cloud over her head. She could barely look at the ground as she walked quickly away from the coffee shop. She couldn't believe she had sat at the wrong table, talked to a complete stranger, and then had to run out like that. What was wrong with her? But even as she chastised herself, there was a strange feeling lingering inside her, an unfamiliar warmth that she couldn't quite shake. It had been so easy to talk to him. She'd barely known him for a few minutes, but in that brief moment, it had felt like they'd known each other for years. He was different from the people she usually met, calm, collected, and surprisingly kind. And his eyes, there was something about them that made her feel understood, even though he had no reason to. She sighed, pulling her coat tighter around her as the chilly breeze hit her. I can't believe I just ran away, she thought to herself. She needed to get back to Jenny's, but the thought of bumping into him again made her stomach twist. She had never been this embarrassed before. After a few minutes of walking in a daze, her phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Jenny. Asterisk, where are you? I'm at table 7 with Kevin. Asterisk. Emma let out a long breath. It was as if the universe was playing some cruel joke on her. She was just about to tell Jenny that she'd messed up when the sound of footsteps behind her made her freeze. She turned around quickly, her heart skipping a beat. Liam was standing there, a few feet away, a hesitant smile on his face. Hey, Emma, he said softly. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. Emma blinked, still surprised that he was here, that he was even following her. I'm fine, she stammered, her nerves flaring up again. I can't believe I did that. I feel so dumb. Liam took a step closer, still smiling. It's not a big deal, really. I was just worried you might have thought I was being rude or something. Emma shook her head, her cheeks still flushed. No, it's just, well, embarrassing. He chuckled lightly. Trust me, I've been there. You're not the first person to make a mistake like that. For a moment, there was a brief, comfortable silence between them. Emma shifted on her feet, trying to gather her composure. I should go back to Jenny, she finally said, her voice a little shaky. She's probably wondering what happened. Liam nodded. I get it. But hey, if you want to talk, I'm free. I mean, we both know this wasn't your fault, right? Emma hesitated. She hadn't expected him to be this kind after everything that had just happened. It felt so easy to talk to him. And yet, a part of her still felt like it was all too good to be true. I'm really sorry about all this, she said, her voice quiet. Liam smiled again, his eyes warm. It's okay. Really. No harm done. Emma smiled back, feeling a little lighter, though still a little unsure. She glanced down at her phone again, checking the time. Jenny was waiting, and she couldn't put this off any longer. I should go, she said softly. Liam looked like he wanted to say something more, but instead, he simply nodded. Of course. But hey, don't be a stranger, okay? We can always grab coffee. Again sometime. Emma's heart fluttered at the suggestion. She wasn't sure if she was ready to let this strange encounter develop into something more, but there was something about him that made her want to see where it could go. I'll think about it, she said, her voice a little more confident now. Thanks for being so understanding, Liam. He gave her one last smile before stepping back. Anytime, Emma. She turned and walked away, still feeling the weight of her earlier mistake, but also, strangely, a sense of hope. Maybe this awkward moment wasn't the end. Maybe it was just the beginning of something new. As Emma walked back toward Jenny, her thoughts were a whirlwind. She had no idea what would happen next, but one thing was for sure. She wouldn't forget this encounter anytime soon. And she wondered, just maybe, if Liam was someone she'd be seeing more of in the future. As she entered the cafe, Jenny waved enthusiastically, completely unaware of the internal storm Emma was feeling. Emma tried to smile and waved back, but her mind was still on Liam, and the strange feeling that this chance encounter might have just changed everything. What did it all mean? Would she really see him again? And if she did, what would happen next? She wasn't sure, but one thing was for sure. Her life, in the span of a few minutes, had just taken a turn she never expected. And for the first time in a long while, Emma felt like maybe, just maybe, things could be different. Maybe they were about to change for the better. She couldn't help but smile to herself as she sat down with Jenny, eager to see where this new twist of fate would lead her. The universe had a funny way of working, she thought. Sometimes, the biggest surprises come from the smallest mistakes. But maybe those mistakes, too, were just the first step towards something wonderful. She just had to be brave enough to find out. A few days passed since Emma had that awkward encounter with Liam at the cafe. She still couldn't get the whole situation out of her mind. Every time she walked past that cafe or saw her phone light up, she couldn't help but think of him. What was it about him? Why had she been so drawn to him in just that brief interaction? She kept telling herself it was nothing, just a fleeting moment, but something inside her refused to let it go. It was almost as if fate had pushed them together in a random, unexpected way, and now she couldn't help but wonder if there was something more. But life moved on, and so did Emma. She focused on work, her art, and spending time with Jenny. But even then, she found herself scanning the crowds at the cafe or checking her phone for a message from Liam, though she knew that was unlikely. She had no reason to believe he'd reach out. He probably didn't even remember her name at this point. Or did he? One morning, as Emma was walking into work, she felt her phone buzz in her pocket. Startled, she pulled it out, only to see a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, hey, it's Liam. We met at the cafe the other day. I've been thinking about that conversation, and I'd love to grab that coffee again sometime if you're up for it. Asterisk, Emma's heart skipped a beat. She blinked at the message, not sure if she was seeing things. She looked around, checking if someone was playing a prank on her, but no, it was really him. Her fingers hovered over the phone screen, unsure of what to do. Should she text him back? What would she even say? She hadn't expected him to reach out. She had barely gotten her hopes up. Still, there was something about his message that felt different. Not only was he offering to meet again, but there was something more sincere in his words. It wasn't just a casual offer. It felt like he genuinely wanted to continue where they left off. Emma smiled to herself, her heart racing. She wasn't sure where this would lead, but she couldn't ignore the spark she'd felt when they first met. She typed back, trying to sound casual, though her palms were sweaty. Asterisk, hi Liam. I'd love to meet up again. How about this Saturday afternoon? I'll be free after 2. Asterisk, almost immediately, her phone buzzed again with his response. Asterisk, Saturday works for me. Let's meet at the same cafe at 2. Looking forward to it. Asterisk, a surge of excitement rushed through Emma. It was happening. She was actually going to see him again. The whole thing felt surreal. She put her phone back in her pocket and headed into work, her mind wandering. She was nervous, but also strangely excited. What would they talk about this time? What if he wasn't as charming or easy to talk to as before? What if it was just a one-time thing? No, she pushed those thoughts aside. She would enjoy the moment for what it was, no expectations, just two people meeting again. Saturday afternoon couldn't come soon enough. When the day finally arrived, Emma found herself standing outside the cafe, nervously adjusting her jacket. She had picked out an outfit she hoped would impress, but not too much. Nothing too fancy, just something comfortable. She looked at her phone, checking the time. It was 1:55 p.m., and she was a little early, just in case. Her heart was pounding in her chest as she walked through the cafe doors. The familiar sounds of clinking cups and soft chatter greeted her, and for a moment, she felt calm. But as she looked around, her eyes immediately landed on him. Liam, sitting at the same table by the window, looking just as she remembered. He smiled when he saw her, a warm, genuine smile that immediately put her at ease. Hey, Emma, he said, standing up to greet her. I'm glad you could make it. She smiled back, her nerves easing as she took a seat across from him. Of course, she said, her voice a little steadier now. I'm glad you reached out. They both sat down, and for a moment, there was an easy silence between them. It wasn't awkward, though. It was comfortable, like they were picking up from where they had left off a few days ago. So, what have you been up to since we last met? Liam asked, taking a sip of his coffee. Emma paused for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Oh, the usual. Working, trying to stay on top of everything. And I've been focusing on my art more. Trying to figure out what my next step is. Liam nodded, his interest clearly piqued. That's great. I'm glad you're still pursuing it. I remember you mentioned wanting to open your own studio. Emma smiled, surprised that he remembered. Yeah, that's the dream. But I'm not there yet. Still figuring things out. I have no doubt you'll get there, Liam said, his voice sincere. I'm really impressed by your passion. She blinked, not sure how to respond. No one had ever said that to her before, especially not someone like Liam. She felt a sudden rush of warmth in her chest, her heart beating a little faster. Thanks, she said softly, looking down at her cup. She didn't know what it was, but something about the way he said it made her believe it for the first time. What about you? She asked, eager to shift the focus back to him. What's been going on in your life? Liam paused, his gaze a little more serious now. Not much, really. Just work, you know? Sometimes it feels like it's all I'm doing. Emma raised an eyebrow, sensing that there was more to the story. It sounds like there's something you're not telling me, she said, her voice light, but teasing. He chuckled, leaning back in his chair. Maybe, he said. But that's a conversation for another time. Emma smiled, feeling the conversation naturally flow between them. It was clear that there was still a lot to learn about each other, and for the first time in a while, Emma felt excited about what the future might hold. Could this be the start of something new? Only time would tell. But for now, all she had to do was enjoy the moment and see where it went. As the days passed after their meeting at the cafe, Emma couldn't stop thinking about Liam. Every time she walked into the cafe where they had met, she felt a little thrill in her chest, almost like she was expecting to bump into him again. But as the days went by, she realized that things had started to feel more normal again. Work, family, the routine of her life. Yet, the memory of him lingered. She found herself smiling when she thought about their conversations, the easy way they talked, the way they seemed to understand each other despite the awkward beginning. Saturday came around, and Emma was nervous. They had agreed to meet again at the same cafe, and even though she'd been looking forward to it, she couldn't help but feel the weight of her own self-doubt creeping in. What if it was just a fluke? What if the spark wasn't really there? But when she walked into the cafe, her heart skipped a beat when she saw Liam sitting at their usual spot by the window, looking even more relaxed than the last time. As she walked toward him, he stood up and greeted her with that same warm smile that made everything feel right. Hey, Emma, he said, his voice full of warmth. I'm really glad you came. I've been looking forward to this. Emma felt a flutter in her chest as she smiled back. Me too, she replied, feeling her nerves ease as she sat down. So, what's been going on with you since we last met? She asked, eager to keep the conversation going and keep the momentum of their connection alive. Liam leaned back in his chair, taking a moment to think before answering. Honestly, not much. Just work, you know? Running a company is never as easy as it sounds. Emma raised an eyebrow, curious. I thought you were the tech guy. Is running a company really that hard? Liam chuckled, a genuine laugh that made Emma feel more comfortable. Well, it's not the tech part that's hard, he said. It's everything else. Managing people, dealing with expectations, balancing all the pieces. It's a lot. Emma nodded, understanding. I can only imagine. But it sounds like you're doing well. Liam smiled, but there was something in his eyes that made Emma think there was more to the story. I'm doing okay. But sometimes, it feels like I'm just going through the motions. Like I'm just doing what I have to do, not what I actually want to do. The vulnerability in his voice made Emma pause. She wasn't expecting that kind of honesty. What do you want to do? She asked, leaning in slightly, genuinely curious. Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know. I've spent so much time building this company, making sure it's successful, that I've lost track of what really matters. I've missed out on the things that make life worth living. Emma sat quietly for a moment, processing his words. There was a part of her that understood exactly what he meant. She had spent so much time focusing on her art and making sure she was doing everything right, that sometimes she lost sight of the things that really made her happy. I think we all get caught up in that, she said softly. But you're right. It's easy to forget why we started in the first place. Liam looked at her, his eyes softening. I think I've forgotten what it's like to feel truly alive, he said quietly. To feel something more than just the weight of responsibility. Emma's heart went out to him. She could see the struggle in his eyes, the longing for something more, something real. She reached across the table, her hand brushing against his. It was a small gesture, but it felt like the right one. I think you're starting to remember, she said, her voice steady. You're here, talking about it. That's a start, right? Liam looked at her, his expression softening, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to fade. Yeah, he said, his voice low. Maybe it is. They sat there for a few more moments, just looking at each other, both of them lost in their thoughts but connected in a way that felt new and exciting. There was something unspoken between them, something that was starting to grow, and Emma could feel it in her chest. She wasn't sure where this would lead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was on the right path. You know, Emma said, breaking the silence. I think you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Maybe you don't have all the answers yet, but you're figuring it out, just like the rest of us. Liam smiled at her, his eyes bright with something new. Hope. Maybe, or maybe just a deeper understanding of what he was looking for. Maybe, he said, his smile widening. Maybe you're right. They continued talking, the conversation flowing easily, and for the first time since they met, Emma felt like she was talking to someone who truly understood her. There were no pretenses, no expectations, just two people sharing their stories and connecting in a way that felt real. As they left the cafe, Liam walked her to her car, the cool night air wrapping around them. Thanks for today, Emma, he said, his voice quiet but sincere. I needed this. Emma smiled, her heart light. I'm glad I could be here, she said, looking up at him. And I'm glad we're getting to know each other. As she drove away, her mind was racing. She didn't know where things would go from here, but for the first time in a long while, Emma felt like she was on the right track. Liam had opened up to her in a way that felt real, and she was starting to see a side of him that she hadn't expected. Maybe they weren't so different after all. And maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something incredible. The days after their last meeting passed in a blur for Emma, and every time she thought about Liam, her heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected to feel this way, especially after such an awkward start. But something about him, the way he opened up to her, made her feel connected in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. But even with all that, Emma wasn't sure if she was ready for more. She'd spent so many years focusing on herself and her art, and the idea of letting someone else into her world, especially someone like Liam, was a bit intimidating. He was a billionaire, a CEO, a person who seemed to have it all. And here she was, struggling to make ends meet, trying to figure out her next steps in life. It felt like there was a wall between them, one made of money, success, and different worlds. But then, one evening, she received another message from him. This time, it wasn't just a casual check-in, it was an invitation. Hey Emma, I was wondering if you'd like to join me at a charity gala next week. I know it's a bit last minute, but I think you'd enjoy it. Let me know if you're up for it. Emma stared at her phone for a long moment, unsure of how to respond. A gala? With Liam? She wasn't sure she was ready for that world yet. The world of high society and fancy dresses, of power and prestige. But at the same time, the idea of spending more time with Liam, of seeing him in a different setting, was tempting. She took a deep breath and typed out her response. I'd love to, Liam. Thanks for thinking of me. I'll be there. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The following week, she found herself standing in front of her mirror, carefully adjusting the dress she had borrowed from her friend Jenny. It wasn't exactly her style. She usually preferred casual, easygoing outfits, but this was a special occasion, and she didn't want to stand out for the wrong reasons. She tried to calm her nerves, but the butterflies in her stomach wouldn't go away. What would it be like, walking into a fancy gala with someone like Liam? Would she feel out of place? Would people notice her, or would she just blend into the background? She shook her head, trying to shake off the self-doubt. Just be yourself, she told herself. You don't need to be anyone else. When she arrived at the venue, the moment she stepped out of the car, she was taken aback by how grand it all was. The building loomed before her, a massive ballroom with lights glittering in the night, the sound of music drifting through the air. It was beautiful, but it was also intimidating. She felt small and insignificant standing there in the midst of it all. But then, she saw Liam. He was waiting for her at the entrance, looking effortlessly handsome in a black tuxedo. His eyes lit up when he saw her, and for a moment, it felt like the whole world faded away. He was here, and so was she. You made it, he said, his voice warm and welcoming. You look amazing, Emma. She felt her face flush at the compliment, but she smiled, trying to hide her nerves. Thank you. You look great too. He chuckled, offering her his arm. Shall we? He led her inside, and as they walked through the grand entrance, Emma felt all eyes turned to them. It was as if the room had suddenly become silent, and she couldn't help but feel the weight of the stairs on her. She didn't belong here. She was just a small-town girl, out of her depth in a world she didn't understand. But then she felt Liam's hand on hers, reassuring her that everything was okay. He didn't seem to notice the stares. He didn't care about her background or her insecurities. He just cared about her. "Don't worry," he whispered as they moved through the crowd. "You're doing great." Emma looked up at him, meeting his gaze. For a moment, everything else disappeared, and it was just the two of them. "Thanks," she said softly, feeling a little more at ease. The night went on, and Emma found herself enjoying the evening more than she'd expected. The conversations were lively, the food delicious, and the people, while intimidating at first, were warm and welcoming once she started talking to them. She began to realize that maybe, just maybe, she could fit into this world. It wasn't as out of reach as she had once thought. She could still be herself and find her place here. As the night wore on, Liam took her by the hand and led her out to the balcony, where they could see the city lights stretching out below them. "It's beautiful out here," Emma said, looking out at the view. "It really is," Liam agreed, standing close beside her. There was a long pause before he spoke again. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said quietly. "I know this world isn't exactly your thing, but you handled it really well." Emma smiled, her heart warming at his words. "I'm glad I came too," she replied. "But I think it's because I'm here with you." Liam turned to look at her, his expression softening. "I'm glad you're here with me too." As the night continued, Emma realized that the gap between them wasn't as wide as she had once thought. Maybe they came from different worlds, but in that moment, standing together on the balcony, everything felt right. Maybe they were more alike than she had realized. Maybe this could be the start of something incredible, something neither of them had expected but both needed. And as the night ended, with Liam walking her back to her car, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. This was just the beginning, and whatever happened next, she was ready to face it, because for the first time in a long time, she felt like she belonged. Over the next few weeks, Emma found herself thinking about Liam more and more. Their last meeting at the gala had been a turning point for her. For the first time, she felt like she was truly connecting with him, not just because of his wealth or status, but because of the person he was. He had opened up to her in a way that no one ever had before, and it made her feel like maybe she wasn't as out of place as she thought. The more time they spent together, the more Emma started to realize that Liam wasn't like the other people she had met in her life. He wasn't distant or intimidating. He was kind, thoughtful, and incredibly down to earth. It wasn't about the fancy events or the expensive gifts. Those things didn't matter to her. What mattered was how he made her feel, like she mattered, like she was enough. But even though Emma was starting to feel a deeper connection with him, doubts still lingered. Was she really ready for something like this? Could someone like her, someone with little money and big dreams, really fit into his world? She wasn't sure if she was ready to give up the small, simple life she had worked so hard to build. But then, one evening, as she was wrapping up a long day at work, Emma received a call from Liam. "Hey, Emma," he said, his voice warm as always. "I was thinking, how would you like to take a weekend trip with me? I've been meaning to get away for a bit, and I thought it might be nice for us to spend some time together, just the two of us. What do you think?" Emma felt a rush of surprise and excitement. A weekend trip? She had never expected something like this. I'd love to," she said, her heart racing. "Where are we going?" Liam laughed lightly. "It's a surprise. I'll send you the details. Just pack light, and trust me, you'll love it." Emma agreed, her mind already spinning with excitement. She couldn't remember the last time she had taken a vacation, let alone something spontaneous like this. She didn't know what it would be like to spend an entire weekend with Liam, but something in her told her it would be exactly what she needed. The weekend arrived faster than she expected. Emma found herself standing at the entrance of the airport, suitcase in hand, feeling both nervous and excited. She had no idea where they were going, but Liam had promised it would be a place she'd enjoy. As she made her way to the gate, she saw him standing there, a little early as usual, waiting for her. He was dressed casually, yet effortlessly stylish, a slight smile on his face as he saw her approach. "Ready for our adventure?" he asked, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "I think so," Emma replied, smiling nervously. "But I have no idea where we're going." "That's part of the fun," Liam said with a grin. "Trust me, you're going to love it." The flight was smooth, and Emma found herself relaxing as they chatted during the flight. It was just like the times they had spent together before. Easy, natural, and full of laughter. There was no pressure, no expectations, just two people enjoying each other's company. When they finally arrived, Emma was surprised to find they were in a small, charming town by the ocean. The air was fresh, the sun was setting over the horizon, and the sound of the waves crashing against the shore was the only noise she could hear. It was breathtaking. "Wow," she whispered, taking in the beauty of the place. "I had no idea this place existed." Liam smiled as he watched her take it all in. "It's one of my favorite spots. I come here whenever I need to get away from the noise of the city. I thought you might appreciate the quiet." Emma was speechless, her heart swelling with gratitude. The small town was everything she didn't even know she needed. Peaceful, calming, and filled with a quiet beauty that took her breath away. "Thank you, Liam," she said softly. "This is amazing." Liam looked at her, his expression sincere. "I'm glad you like it. I thought it might be the perfect place for us to relax and unwind." They spent the next 2 days exploring the town, walking along the beach, dining at small, cozy restaurants, and enjoying each other's company without the distractions of their everyday lives. Emma felt a sense of peace here that she hadn't realized she was missing. It was as if she could finally breathe without the weight of the world on her shoulders. Liam was different here too. Calmer, more relaxed, and completely present. It was easy to forget that he was a CEO with a busy life back home. Here, he was just Liam, someone who cared about her and made her feel special. On the last night of their trip, they found themselves on the beach, watching the sunset together. Emma wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the cool breeze from the ocean. She felt content, something she hadn't truly felt in a long time. Liam stood beside her, looking out at the horizon. "You know," he said, his voice quiet, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said when we first met. About being true to yourself and not getting caught up in the world around you. I think I've been trying to find that too." Emma looked up at him, surprised by his words. "You have?" He nodded. "Yeah. I think I've been so focused on my career and all the things I'm supposed to be doing that I lost sight of what really matters. Being here with you, this is what matters." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest as she heard his words. "I'm glad we're here," she said softly. "I think this weekend has been exactly what I needed." Liam smiled at her, his gaze tender. "Me too." For the first time in a long time, Emma felt truly at peace. Whatever was ahead, whatever this connection with Liam would become, she knew she was ready to face it. Because in that moment, standing beside him on the beach, with the ocean breeze in her hair and the setting sun painting the sky, she felt like she had finally found the place where she truly belonged. As the days passed after their peaceful weekend by the ocean, Emma felt like she had stepped into a new chapter of her life. The time away from her everyday routine, coupled with the moments she shared with Liam, had given her clarity. She found herself smiling more often, thinking about the future with a sense of hope that she hadn't felt in a long time. But even though things between her and Liam had started to feel natural, Emma still wrestled with some uncertainty. She had always been independent, focused on her own path, and the idea of allowing someone, especially someone like Liam, into her world was both exciting and terrifying. She wasn't sure if she was ready to merge her small, quiet life with the world he lived in. The world of wealth, power, and expectations. Yet, she knew she couldn't ignore the connection they had formed. Something about Liam had drawn her in from the very first moment they met, and every day since then, that connection had only grown stronger. But was it enough? Was she ready to be with him? Emma wasn't sure, but she couldn't deny that the thought of losing him, of letting this opportunity slip away, felt even more terrifying. She had spent so much time building walls around herself, convincing herself that love wasn't something she needed to pursue. But now, she realized, maybe it was. One afternoon, as she was working on some sketches for her next art project, she received a message from Liam. Asterisk. Hey, I was thinking about you today. Would you like to have dinner tonight? I found this great new restaurant I think you'd love. Let me know. Asterisk. Emma stared at the message for a moment, her heart racing. Every time she heard from him, it made her feel like she was on the edge of something new, something that could change her life. She smiled to herself and quickly typed a response. Asterisk. I'd love to. What time? Asterisk. Liam's reply was almost immediate. Asterisk. How about 7? I'll pick you up at your place. Asterisk, her heart skipped a beat. Liam was picking her up? It felt like such a simple thing, but it made her feel special, cherished even. She quickly got ready, choosing a dress that was simple yet elegant. She wanted to look good, of course, but more than that, she wanted to feel comfortable, confident, and true to herself. When the time came, she heard the sound of a car pulling up outside her apartment. Emma's nerves flared up again, but she took a deep breath and went to open the door. As soon as she stepped outside, she saw Liam leaning against the car, dressed casually but still looking effortlessly handsome. The moment he saw her, his eyes lit up, and she couldn't help but smile. "You look incredible," he said, his voice filled with admiration. Emma felt a blush creep up her neck at the compliment. "Thank you," she replied softly, trying to hide her nerves. Liam opened the car door for her, and she slid into the passenger seat. The ride to the restaurant was filled with light conversation, but as they arrived, Emma's nerves started to settle. The restaurant was elegant but not too flashy, with soft lighting and a warm atmosphere. It felt intimate, and Emma immediately felt at ease. As they were seated, Liam reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm really glad you're here with me," he said, his voice sincere. Emma looked up at him, her heart beating faster. "I'm glad to be here too," she said softly. The evening was perfect. The food was delicious, the conversation flowed easily, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she could truly be herself. They talked about their dreams, their fears, and everything in between. It wasn't just small talk. It was real, it was deep, and it made Emma feel like Liam truly understood her. As they finished their meal, Liam reached for his jacket and stood up. "There's one more place I want to take you," he said with a mysterious smile. Emma raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Where?" she asked. Liam's smile grew wider. "It's a surprise." They left the restaurant and drove for a while, Emma growing more curious with each passing minute. When they arrived, she couldn't help but gasp at the sight. They were at a small park overlooking the city, the lights of the skyline twinkling in the distance. "This is beautiful," Emma whispered. Liam smiled and led her to a bench under a tree. They sat together, the cool night air wrapping around them as they watched the city below. "This is my favorite spot," Liam said, his voice low. "I come here whenever I need to think. It's quiet, peaceful, just the kind of place where you can reflect on things." Emma sat beside him, taking in the view. "I can see why you like it," she said. "It's peaceful." There was a long silence between them, comfortable and warm. Emma turned to him, her heart suddenly racing. "Liam," she began, her voice tentative, "I've been thinking a lot about us. About everything that's happened between us." Liam looked at her, his expression softening. "And?" Emma took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "I'm not sure what this is, but I know I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose you." She felt the weight of her words as they hung in the air between them, unsure of what his response would be. Liam's eyes searched hers, his gaze intense. "You won't lose me, Emma," he said quietly. "I'm here. I want to be here, with you." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. The weight of her doubts and fears melted away as she realized that this was real, that the connection they shared wasn't just a passing moment, but something meaningful. She smiled, her heart full. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." Liam squeezed her hand, his eyes never leaving hers. "No need to thank me. We're in this together now." As they sat there, side by side, with the city's lights twinkling in the distance, Emma realized that this was just the beginning of something new. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she was ready to face them, with Liam by her side. The days after their night at the park passed in a blur of quiet contentment for Emma. She found herself smiling at random moments, remembering Liam's words, the way he looked at her, how everything just seemed to fall into place in that peaceful moment. There were still questions in her mind, about their future, about how this would all work, but for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel anxious about the unknown. She felt calm, centered, and excited about what could be. Over the next few weeks, their relationship continued to grow in a way that felt so natural. They spent more time together, sharing quiet dinners, long walks, and conversations that made Emma feel like she was truly seen. Liam was no longer the distant CEO in her mind. He was just Liam, the man who made her laugh, who listened when she spoke, and who cared deeply about her. Emma had never known a relationship like this, one built on trust, openness, and genuine connection. But as much as Emma felt the pull to be with Liam, a part of her still hesitated. She hadn't forgotten the world he came from, the world of business deals, gala events, and expectations. Sometimes, when she saw him surrounded by people at events or in meetings, she couldn't help but feel like she was living in two separate realities. His world was so different from hers, and even though he never made her feel less than, she wondered if she truly belonged there. One day, as they sat in a quiet cafe, Liam looked at her with a serious expression. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said, his voice soft but determined. "I know things have been moving quickly, and I want to make sure we're both on the same page. I don't want you to feel pressured or rushed into anything. But I also want to be honest about where I'm at." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected this kind of conversation, but she was grateful for his honesty. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice a little tentative. "I'm just saying that I'm in this for the long haul, Emma," Liam continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "I care about you. A lot. And I know we come from different worlds, but I believe in what we have. I want to see where it can go, and I want you by my side when it does." Emma felt her breath catch in her throat. For a moment, the words didn't sink in. She had never been in a relationship like this, one that felt so real, so steady. And it terrified her. She knew what it was like to fight for something you wanted, to make sacrifices, but the thought of losing herself in someone else's world, of losing the life she had built, was a big leap. "I care about you too, Liam," Emma said quietly, trying to gather her thoughts. "But I've spent so much time building my own path, my own life. I don't know if I can just leave that behind." Liam nodded, his gaze softening. "I don't want you to give up anything for me, Emma. I just want to be with you. If you're willing to take the next step with me, I'll support you, no matter what that looks like." His words hit her like a wave. They were everything she had wanted to hear, yet they brought a sense of uncertainty as well. She was torn. She wanted him. She wanted this connection between them. But she also wanted to stay true to herself, to the life she had worked so hard to build. "I need time to think," Emma said, her voice quiet but steady. "I need to figure out what I want, what my future looks like. I can't just jump into something without understanding what it means for me." Liam's expression was patient, understanding. "Of course. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere, Emma. I'm not going to rush you." He reached across the table and took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "But know this. I'm here, and I want to be with you. Whenever you're ready." Emma squeezed his hand, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing. She wasn't alone in this. Liam was right. She didn't have to give up who she was to be with him. She just had to find a balance, a way to blend their worlds together without losing herself in the process. Over the next few days, Emma took some time for herself. She spent more time painting, reflecting on her life, her dreams, and her fears. She thought about her relationship with Liam, what it meant to her, and what it could mean for her future. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that it wasn't about choosing one world over the other. It was about finding a way to make them work together. She didn't have to lose herself to be with Liam. She could still pursue her art, her dreams, and build a life with him, too. When she finally felt ready, Emma called Liam. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice steady but full of emotion. Liam answered almost immediately. "Of course. When and where?" "How about tonight?" she suggested. "I have something to say." Later that evening, they met at a small park near her apartment. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over everything, and Emma felt a sense of peace as she stood there, waiting for Liam. When he arrived, she looked at him and smiled. "I've been thinking a lot," she said, "and I've realized that I want to be with you. I don't have all the answers yet, but I want to figure it out with you. I'm ready to take the next step." Liam's eyes lit up, and he stepped closer to her, taking her hands in his. "You have no idea how happy that makes me," he said, his voice full of emotion. "We'll take it one step at a time, Emma. Whatever happens, I'm here." As they stood there, holding each other, Emma knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they could face them together. Because for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had found the balance between love and self, and that was exactly what she needed. The days that followed their conversation in the park were filled with a sense of calm that Emma hadn't expected. She had made her decision. She was ready to take the next step with Liam. The fear and uncertainty that had been holding her back started to fade as she realized that she didn't have to choose between her dreams and her relationship with him. She could have both. It wasn't going to be easy, but she had never been one to shy away from a challenge. Liam, for his part, was more than supportive. He never pushed her, never made her feel like she had to rush. He gave her the space she needed to think, but he also showed up for her in ways that made her feel like she could trust him, like she could rely on him. It was exactly what she needed, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. A few weeks later, as the seasons began to shift from summer to fall, Emma and Liam stood in front of a small art gallery downtown. It had been a dream of Emma's to open her own space, a place where she could display her work and the work of other up-and-coming artists. She had been working tirelessly to make this dream a reality, and now, standing in front of the gallery with Liam by her side, she realized just how far she had come. "I can't believe this is happening," Emma said, her voice full of emotion as she looked at the gallery. "This is it, Liam. This is the start of something new." Liam smiled at her, his eyes filled with pride. "You did this, Emma. You built this from the ground up. I'm so proud of you." Emma felt a surge of warmth in her chest at his words. She had always doubted herself, always questioned if she was good enough, if she could make it. But now, standing here, she realized that she had everything she needed to succeed. She had the talent, the drive, and the support of the people who mattered most. Most importantly, she had Liam. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice full of gratitude. "You've been with me every step of the way." Liam reached for her hand and squeezed it. "And I'll be here for all the steps to come," he said, his voice sincere. Emma smiled up at him, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't know what the future would bring, but she was ready for it. She had a life ahead of her filled with endless possibilities, and she was no longer afraid of what might come next. As the grand opening of the gallery approached, Emma felt more excited than ever. She had put everything she had into this dream, and now it was coming to life. She had her own space, her own gallery, and the support of Liam, who was by her side, cheering her on. It was everything she had ever wanted, and it felt like the beginning of something even greater. On the night of the grand opening, the gallery was filled with people, art lovers, critics, friends, and family. Emma had never felt more alive. She stood in the center of the room, looking at the walls lined with her own paintings, some she had spent months working on. People admired the work, and Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This was her moment, the one she had worked so hard for. As the evening went on, Liam found her in the crowd, his smile never leaving his face. "I think this might be the best night of your life," he said, his voice full of admiration. Emma smiled up at him, her heart full. "It's definitely one of the best," she said, reaching for his hand. "But it wouldn't be the same without you here." Liam squeezed her hand gently, his gaze softening. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." They stood together, hand in hand, watching as the people around them admired her work, celebrating her success. Emma realized in that moment that it wasn't just the gallery that she had built, it was a life. A life with Liam, with her art, and with the freedom to pursue her dreams. She had found balance, something she never thought was possible. And as the night came to an end, Liam leaned in, his voice low and gentle. "I know we've been through a lot to get here, Emma, but I want you to know, no matter what comes next, I'm here. Always." Emma smiled, her heart full, and nodded. "I know," she said, her voice steady with certainty. "And I'm here too, for everything that comes next." They stood there together, looking out over the gallery, knowing that this was just the beginning of their journey. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Emma had found her place, her purpose, and the person she wanted to spend her life with. And that was all she needed to know.